Well, well, well. All I can say is tanks are eating good starting from next reset. We have a new update on tanks. Basically, every tank that has not been Guardian Druid or Brewmaster has been touched in some sort of way. Everyone has got buffed, and I feel like this is really, really healthy for the non-existent tank economy right now. We got changes on Blood Death Knight, Vengeance Demon Hunter, which surprised me kinda, but we'll get into that. We got well-deserved Prot Paladin buffs. We also got some minor warrior buffs, which are kind of weird. Won't really do much, I think, but we'll get into that one by one. Okay, let's start with Blood Death Knights. Now, the Dancing Rune Weapon now grants 25% parry instead of 20%. Their Dance of Midnight grants Dancing Rune Weapon for 8 seconds instead of 6 seconds. And their Dance of Midnight chance to proc is increased to 12.5, which was 10%. This is an overall buff to the entire kit of this season's playstyle of Blood Death Knight. It is quite good, honestly. It is really good. But this entire playstyle is based off of RNG. RNG can feel really good, but it can also feel really, really, really bad. You can press Dancing Rune Weapon once, but then it's on cooldown for I think 2 minutes. And if you don't get a single proc of Dance of Midnight, which is your Apex talent, which basically is another dance, which is basically another Dancing Rune Weapon proc, you are basically playing without your Apex talent completely. Now, to counteract that, they also buffed the Blood Fortification talent, which now grants 40% stamina instead of 35%, which is great, especially for Blood Death Knights. Some Blood DK said that they rather want armor buffs, but I feel like Blood's entire existence and playstyle really relies on having a really high health pool. They also scale really well with item level and stuff, and the more health they have, the tankier they are, the more health they can restore with Death Strike and stuff. I feel like this is a really great change to make them a good bit tankier. Going along with this, they also buffed the improved Death Strike healing, which was 5%, and they put it up and they bumped it up to 15%. This is insane, honestly. The defensive buffs are really great, like these two are really great. These changes, we would have to talk about it. We would have to wait and see how they evolve, but as I said, having an RNG talent is honestly never a good idea in my opinion. Like if it's a minor buff, okay, go for it. But if it's literally your Apex talent that you want to play around with and you just simply can't because it just simply doesn't proc, it just feels really terrible. So we'll have to wait and see. They buffed the proc chance by 2.5%, so maybe it will feel better, but all in all, Blood DK buffs are really not that bad, honestly. Some people complained, especially Blood DK or alleged Blood DK mains. They complained that these buffs are basically nothing, but I feel like these two buffs alone are already worth picking up Blood Death Knight now, because they weren't really bad. Their only issue was the sustain that was lacking, and now they got their sustain with 5% extra stamina and 10% extra healing. So all in all, great change. Now, Demon Hunter, I mentioned this in my last patch notes video, where I was like, the main issue for Vengeance Demon Hunter is that they are simply lacking threat gen. They are simply having issues to generate threat. Blizzard replied with buffing their defensives. I feel like Vengeance Demon Hunter was already quite tanky. I never really had issues tanking a lot of mobs. If you know your way around Vengeance Demon Hunter, you can definitely pull big packs and survive all of them. But usually the issue is farming up that big pack, because you will probably lose aggro, because eventually you will run out of utility and ability suppress to generate threat effectively. Like your Spirit Bomb is on cooldown, your Sigils are on cooldown. When those two are on cooldown, you basically have no threat gen anymore. It's kind of sad, but it is currently the way it unfortunately is. Anyway, they buffed the Demonic Wards talent, which now reduces all damage taken by 12%, which was 8%, so all in all, great buff. Thick Skin, I think Thick Skin got buffed last patch as well, and it wasn't enough, so they bumped it up by another 5%, increasing their stamina. The effectiveness of Mastery was increased by 20%, which I honestly don't think will do that much, because as far as I know, Vengeance Demon Hunters don't really go for Mastery this season. Let me check real quick. Yeah. Their main stats are haste and crit, and mastery is the third stat they want to go for. So maybe it will swap over with crit, but I honestly don't believe so, because crit really makes the Vengeance Demon Hunter deal a ton of damage. So we will have to wait and see, but I don't think this buff is going to do that much, unfortunately. Additionally, Void Reaver now causes Frailty to reduce damage taken by 5%, which was 4%. If you didn't know, Frailty is the debuff you put on the ads and bosses when you press Spirit Bomb, which is basically another defensive, because it pretty much reduces your damage taken by now 5%, and I also think it heals you for quite a bit. This is not bad, kind of a minor buff. I don't think Vengeance Demon Hunter is gonna really move a lot in the tier lists or in the play rates, because simply threat gen issues. I don't know why they are going for the stamina buffs and stuff. My main issue, and a lot of Vengeance Demon Hunter players' issue, is to generate threat effectively. I would really... Honestly, I would sacrifice these buffs to get some threat gen buffs. But that's just me. You Vengeance Demon Hunter mains could give me your opinion in the comments below. I don't really play it this season, because as I said, I tried it a bit. Feels terrible, for my opinion. If you like it, tell me why. If you don't like it, also tell me why down in the comments below. Okay, now we're talking to the king of this patch note, by the way. As you might have known, Paladin, especially Prot Paladin, recently has been not a tank, but rather a piece of wet paper. That's how you can describe them. They die to pretty much anything. They don't really have reliable defensives, and if they press defensives, they are basically still less tanky than a 230 item level Brewmaster. It was practically unplayable, let's be real. It was practically unplayable. The people that play Paladin this season, which is, by the way, 14% of the entire player base. It's almost as much as Guardian Druid right now. Crazy to me. All of these 14% are probably masochistic, but anyway, you got your buffs now. Blessing of Dusk now reduces damage taken by up to 20%, which was 10%. This will only reach 20% when you get lower, but even in the early, even when you're full HP, you will now have a higher baseline damage reduction up at all times. Sanctified Plates increases stamina by 7/15%, which was 5 and 10%. This is huge. Having more stamina as a tank is always good, especially combined with the 10% base armor buff from last patch. Now, moving on with the Ardent Defender duration increasing by 12 seconds, which was 8 seconds. This is a flat 50% buff on Ardent Defender, which is one of your main defensives, by the way. And it also got its damage reduction increased by another 10%. This is huge for tankiness for Prot Paladins. This will now make you a tank again. You used to be a red Paladin with a shield, but now you can call yourself a tank again. This is a very nice change. And on top of that, the Sentinel duration is increased by 20 seconds, which was 16 seconds. Now, you usually don't play Sentinel on Prot Paladin. You usually play the other hero talent. I forgot the name. But this might maybe turn the meta for a bit. Maybe people would try out Sentinel now. And this would probably make them tankier. If you didn't know, Sentinel calls upon the light and gains 15 stacks of Divine Resolve, increasing your maximum health by 1% and reducing your damage taken by 2% per stack for 16 seconds. This is basically a flat damage reduction plus increased health, which is always nice. You will always want damage reduction, health, and armor or magic resistance, depending on which spec you are. This is always nice. So this is a flat out, complete, insane buff for Prot Paladins. This entire buff list will probably bump Prot Paladins to 80, honestly. If we only got these two, I would have said probably IB tier, but these will most definitely bump them up to A tier. Now, a lot of people have been complaining that none of the damage numbers have been buffed for tanks, but you don't really need that, honestly. As you can see, Prot Paladin already deals a ton of damage. They are competing with Brewmasters right now. They are just not as tanky as Brewmasters, which is why they are so bad. If Prot Paladins had the tankiness of Brewmaster wouldn't be meta. I can most certainly guarantee you that. I mean, they would be played, but they would not have a 40% popularity rate. Prot Paladin, if Prot Paladin is strong, Prot Paladin will almost always be meta, because it is way better than taking a Red Paladin or a Holy Paladin, unfortunately. Unless one of each is completely, utterly busted and broken. But if we're talking about just baseline strong, you would always take a Prot Paladin. None of these tanks really need a damage buff except Prot Warrior. These Prot Warrior changes kind of did nothing from, I think, last week. They were pretty useless. They are still lacking in the damage department by like 10k at this point. None of these tanks really need damage. They just need to survive right now. Now, with these nodes, they honestly achieved that. I would say they achieved it. Now, the Warrior buffs are kind of useless, in my opinion. They won't really do that much. As I said, Warrior is already quite tanky. Not the tankiest, still able to tank reliably, especially like the mid to high keys. They usually have no problems tanking those. They still got some defensive buffs, which is always nice to see, right? But they buffed Fire Through Flames, which reduces the magic damage taken by 6%, which was 4%. If you didn't know, Fire Through the Flames is this talent node right here, which gives your defensive stance an additional 4% magic damage reduction. The issue is you don't really take this. There is no other talent you can really sacrifice or you want to sacrifice for this talent exactly. There have been builds where you only play one point in your Apex talent and then you just go for threat gen, more tankiness. But even then, I don't think you would take this. There's way better options like increases your stamina and haste, like Indomitable, which increases your max health. There's just simply way better options to take than this one. So this is a kind of nothing burger buff, but we also got the Phalanx Apex talent damage reduction by 8%, which was 5%. So this will move the player base to going into 4 points into their Apex talent, which, as I said, there was a build with only 1. And then a flat effectiveness buff on Ignore Pain, which is your main damage mitigation by 8%. Great buff. But unfortunately, I don't think this will do anything for Mythic Plus. I heard that Prot Warrior has already been strong in Raid, and this will just make them even stronger, because I think they take Fight Through the Flames, I think, and Phalanx and Ignore Pain is, you always take those, so. Great buff. Insane buff. I feel like it's whatever, but I might be wrong. I haven't really heard a lot about Vengeance Demon Hunters because no one plays them this season. It's like 7% popularity rate. Death Knight, great buffs, but unfortunately it's an entire RNG build, which is on a tank especially not really that great, honestly, because as a tank you want to be able to mitigate damage effectively, and with RNG talents and Apex talents you can't really do that. So Blood Death Knight and Vengeance Demon Hunter, I'm quite unsure. Blood Death Knight will definitely profit more than Vengeance Demon Hunter though. Prot Paladin will become one of the stronger tanks, probably in 3rd or 4th place. And Warrior, as I said, kind of whatever. I am, by the way, really surprised that Guardian Druids have dodged another bullet. I talked about this on stream. I don't really mind that the Guardian Druid is as strong as it is right now. What I mind is that it is topping DPS meters. You might think that I'm contradicting myself right now with the opinions that I gave and the ideas that I gave to Blizzard on how to fix tanking. Dealing damage on a tank is fun, and I'm still standing by that. I don't really see an issue in dealing damage as a tank. I've had a lot of Guardian Druid mains in my chat saying that they are having a blast, and I'm happy for you guys, but I don't really like the fact that the tanks are able to top the DPS meters right now. I mean, they are reaching numbers to like 1 million DPS in pulls like Agatha Academy. That is a little bit too much in my opinion. Regarding the fact that they only press 2 buttons, by the way, kind of, it's a bit too much. I would like them to tune it down a bit. I would be fine with them being on 3rd place in DPS situations like that, like the massive pull in Agatha Academy. I would be fine with that. Maybe 2nd place at most, but that they are literally gapping every single DPS in the list is kind of crazy to me. I would be really surprised if we literally get no changes anymore regarding Guardian Druid. I think we will still have some tank changes in general. Like, I hope we get Threat on Vengeance Demon Hunters. All in all, I really like this patch. I would have just wished for a Guardian Druid adjustment. I'm all for you guys being meta right now. I'm not saying it because I'm a Brewmaster main and I'm bitter that my spot has been taken. I'm saying it as it is. I feel like Guardian Druid is dealing a tiny tad bit too much damage. Let me know how you think about it. Anyways, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.